Hey guys, Lukey here, coach of your Olivine City Beacons, and I'm back in a Gen 9 draft league, and that means let's break down the team. Even though I already broke down part of this team in my season preview video, which is already on the channel, I'm now the coach of well, they were 0-2 when I took them over, and they're now 0-3 because I got my ass handed to me. And as part of my challenge, I really wanted to take the team at its face and see what I could do with it. And that was a disaster. So I actually had James reach out with some suggestions. And after humming and hemming and hawing and thinking it over, I went with them. Point blank, let's do it. So even though these are none of my own picks, either in the main draft or through free agency, I really want to see what I can make of it in the last 3 or 4 weeks. And I think it's a good opportunity to kind of get out of my comfort zone, try out some mons. I don't think I've ever used any of these mons in a draft before. Obviously, some of them are Suium, but I haven't even used their regular versions in draft. And see what I can do. Get used to Gen 9. I haven't played around with terrestrialization. Um, so this is a good opportunity just to kind of get my feet wet in now a low pressure environment because quite frankly, this team, I'm not making the playoffs unless I win all 3 matches and get some help. And it's just kind of a nice casual way to learn the ropes and try out some fun mods. So let's talk about the team. The first 6 picks in the draft were not changed. So I really just rebuilt the bottom of the team thanks to James's selections. So let's start at the top. Neuvern. Neuvern was the Terra captain. He's had his captaincy stripped. And why is that? Because he's not a setup sweeper like Dreadnought, and Boomburst Terra is very easy to prep for, and you see it coming a mile away, and it offers absolutely no defensive utility to me. And there's just not enough upside, I think. But Neuvern on its own is still a great mon. It's a fast pivot. It has those big Draco meteors. It has a fun move pool. It can do some damage and hit and run. Where Neuvern struggles is, again, that lack of defensive utility. It's fast, but there are things that are faster than it, and it lacks the power to outright KO things in a tier where there are a lot of things strong enough to kill it in one hit. So to be honest, if I had been drafting, I probably would have been looking at Neuvern myself. But after testing it out and thinking about how it performs vis-a-vis the other threats in this league, I'm not so sure. But we're going to try and make it work. Backing him up is Florges, a mon that probably shouldn't even be at this level. Florges arguably got buffed, and the only thing really holding it back is that it's not my Terra captain, where I think it could really benefit from it. I'm not sure if Terra Grass would eliminate its, give it a status immunity based on its ability, but I'd be interested to see somebody try. But Florges did get Draining Kiss this gen. It has a decent enough move pool. It just cannot hit steals, which is going to be a big issue for this team because I don't have a good fire type. I've already been swept by a steel type once in Terra Steel Dreadnought. But Florges is that big, bulky, special sponge. It pairs well with a lot of the physically oriented guys on the team. And I think it did pretty well in the first game. Third pick is Weird Ear, definitely a candidate to get dropped. I'm so sad. I love Stantler. I was excited when it got an evolution in Weird Ear and, riding around on it in Legends Arceus and then looking at its move pool and its stats. Base 75 defenses and 65 speed. It's slower than Stantler. Stantler having Eviolite, honestly, I think it's better than Weird Ear, and Weird Ear might be over tiered here. That was a lot of rhymes. The one thing, well, what Weird Ear has going for it is great mixed attack. I think it's 105 or 115 off of both wings, and it's got a decent enough move pool. Especially on the special side, it's got great coverage options to hit a lot of things super effectively. Definitely something that you have to account for if it gets set up. It also has some fun physical options, Trailblaze to cover up its speed. Psy Shield Bash, if you can get past the shaky accuracy, and we'll see if it makes an appearance, but it can buff its defense, and along with Intimidate means that Weirder can very quickly have some bulk. Uh, the problem is, of course, Normal Psychic is a garbage typing defensively, and that lack of that absolutely terrible speed stat means that Weirder is going to struggle to come, and it's going to be a challenge to see how I can get the most out of it. Definitely interested to try it out, but I don't see it coming more than once, to be honest. Electro to Sui, I know it's got no icon. This thing, I think, is under tiered. It's so, so good. That speed stat, it is the low tier Regieleki. And what it has going for it is it deters ground types from switching in without having to Terra. Whereas Jolteon and Regieleki in higher tiers are like, all right, I'm going to Terra Ice and your ground types aren't going to switch in. I'm going to be super fast. Well, Electrode Hisui pressures pretty much all the ground types that are available here, either with Energy Ball or its Chlorophyll Blast. And with Electrode, you're looking to Volt Switch out of things, and it's okay if it takes some damage. It can't take many hits, even though its typing is better, and it can take some, theoretically, that regular Electrode couldn't. But the only HP that matters is 0 for a mon like this. So we'll see. It's got some options. It's a really fast subseeder too. A mon that I'm really glad is here. Piloswine, again, a mon that I think for the points might be over tiered, but I've already had good success with it. It's such a glue mon even in higher tier play as sort of that low tier utility role. It's got just enough attack to make use of it. It's got some fun ability, like Thick Fat is a great defensive ability to give it longevity and staying power. Its typing is okay. It being a ground type is obviously super useful, but paired with ice gives it some nasty weaknesses. But just like its big brother Mamoswine, it can put in a lot of work and run some surprising sets. It's not reliant on Eviolite. Avalugg Hisui, a Pokemon that I think might be under tiered. That said, if you watch the first battle video I've had against Reapple, you'll know how bad this typing is. That's why I wanted to make it a Terra Captain, because I think being able to get out of that typing gives it a lot more options and a new lease on life. This is a Mon that, with the right Terra, it gives me a lot of flexibility. Now, it's got to get in to do anything, and there's a lot of Mons that it can't switch into, which is a huge problem. But depending on the team composition I have each week, I can mix and match and give it the right Terra type to make the most of it. And not only can that improve its defensive profile, because basically any type it Terras into is an improvement over Rock Ice, but it also allows Avalugg Hisui to lean into its offenses, and it has great attack and the physical move pool to cause some problems. So that's what I'm looking for from this. So now to some of the new bonds. The first one suggested by James is Bramblegast, and Bramblegast is super underrated. My boy Tib has it on his team. It is great roll compression. That Grass Ghost typing is really useful, especially on a mon this fast, because it gives it at least one good offensive type. And grass situationally can also be good. The water and earth or ground resists are also handy. It allows its meager bulk to go a fair bit further because they're two useful resists. And it has spikes. It has strength sap, which is a super rare move. Means this thing has some staying power, has some longevity, can add hazards to the field, can spin and block. Really, really useful low tier mon that also adds some much needed speed to the squad. Heading on now to Garbodor, my week 1 MVP. Garbodor is always super underrated. It has a fantastic move pool, abilities. Stats are just okay, but it hits pretty hard physically. Gunk Shot, when it connects, can cause a lot of problems. And in Gen 9, it's extra valuable because it's a grounded poison in a generation where some form of like toxic spikes. I think you always have to prepare, and I think everybody needs to draft somebody with that. And Garbodor can soak them up at no cost of any turn. So this is a setup mon. It's a utility mon. Uh, love Garbodor. Glad the original coach picked him. Nothing needs to change. The second pick took some convincing by James for me to pick it. I picked Aggron. Aggron, typing wise, Aggron was really the push to say, look, Electro or Avalon Kasui can be my Terra captain because they share a lot of weaknesses. They are the bulky physical walls that you can't bring together because they will fold like a cheap tent. Paired together or doing different things, different story. Aggron gives me that steel typing. Uh, I have enough things on the team that can handle fighting types for it. I've got some okay solutions to ground types on the team. And I have, especially with Florges, the special sponge needed to take those kinds of hits. The other thing that Aggron does, that I think it does much better than Avalon Kasui, is it can come in as a wall breaker. This thing, if you give it a chance, is going to cause a world of hurt, and it gets stealth rocks. So there's some flexibility there and some unpredictability in the sets, and because of the Terra Captain in Avalon Kasui, I could bring both, and you're not going to necessarily know off a team preview which role each of them is going to fill. So I think Aggron, other than this team needed a steal, can fill a lot of valuable niches. Next up is Wishy Washy. I think at 4 points, super undervalued. James is a big fan. I've been a big fan. We've been talking about using Wishy Washy for over a year. I know he used it in one of the Gen 8 low tier leagues. And Wishy Washy has some big weaknesses. Obviously, its ability is horrific once it's below 20%. But until then, you've got a big, bulky, slow, U-turning water type that hits hard, can take some nice hits for the team, synergizes well with Florges. And, other than it needs some wish support and some careful switching, is the kind of low budget, bulky water that this team really needed. So I'm interested to see how it performs, and also it takes some of the pressure off of Avalon Kasui, where otherwise I might be tempted to turn Avalon into a Terra Water every week. Wishy Washy can kind of relieve that pressure. And to round off the squad, we've got Murkrow. Now Murkrow, another underrated threat. Again, this team didn't have a dark type, so the psychic immunity is kind of handy. I have mixed feelings about Murkrow. On one hand, it hits decently hard. I'm pretty sure it's got base 90 attack. So it can dish out some hits, and it also gives me Prankster Taunt, which might have been helpful. I don't know how helpful it would have been against Reapple because you have to have Murkrow in for Prankster Taunt to work. But it's, a dark type that in low tier hits decently hard. Has a couple of things it can do and has that prankster support. The psychic community is also really clutch. So that's all for this preview. My first opponent is Fistier Doom and the Cult, the team that the league was saying I almost took over when he was a no-show for a few days. Looking at this team, he's 3-0. He's basically used the mantra of hitting as hard and as fast as he can with his high tiers. So it'll be a good test for the team. Can I handle all of these threats coming? And then you see, the work that he put in with Quilladin, and he's got Mischievous, which is a super underrated mon. And how does my team deal with Jolteon? Because if you're looking at my squad, guys, it doesn't like Jolteon very much. I've got one mon that can safely switch into a Terra Ice Jolteon continuously, but even he's going to get worn down. So it'll be an interesting match. It's scheduled for Wednesday night, hopefully, and well, we're going to see what we can do. Have a little fun with Gen 9, get used to it. It's fun to be back, playing some battles, and hopefully I can provide some entertainment for you guys. So, like the video, subscribe if you really like it, and we'll see you in the next one. Thanks.